Welcome to another edition of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. Well, I've gotten a lot of requests to show how I cut some of my vegetables. A couple of complaints were that on my recipes, I already show all of the vegetables being cut up. And some people want to know how I do that. So this is my way, okay? There are many different ways to do this. There are more professional ways to do this. And for all of you cooking police out there, I don't want to get any requests that say, well, you're doing it wrong, you're doing it this way, it should be done this way. I'm showing you how I do it. There are a couple basic skills and a couple things you need to know. First off, your knife should be very sharp. And I use primarily two types. I use a Sakotu, which is this type of a Japanese blade for some of my dicing, and you'll see that. And then I've got two chef knives that I received as gifts from my aunt and uncle, Sue and Nick, and from Chris and Renee. I got these as retirement gifts. The key is they need to be very, very sharp, and you need to always protect your hands when you're cooking. It can be very dangerous. You can cut yourself easy. So I'm showing you how I do it. You learn your way. You go at the speed that you want to go. But first, a couple things. The first thing you want to learn is how to hold a knife. There are many different ways to do it, many meaning a couple different ways to do it, and I'm a lefty. But one way you never want to do it, you never want to put your finger on the tang here, because when you put pressure on, it gives you instability laterally. Okay, so the way I hold it is I have, you see this curve here, almost all good knives have this. I put my index finger on that, and I keep this finger back here, and that gives me my best control when I'm dicing. You can put both your thumb and finger here. You can put two fingers and your thumb here, whatever feel, or you can just hold it by the handle, okay, whatever is most comfortable for you. The other thing is you never have your fingers this way. Your fingertips are always curled, and you want to keep this as where the edge of the knife is going. And when you dice and you're cutting, you want to keep the tip of your knife always on the board, and you want to dice in a circular manner, okay? And that's why it's very critical for you to have your knife very, very sharp. And if something is really big and you can't get your knife there, like an onion, you can slice backwards and down like that, okay? So those are a couple basics that you want to learn. And again, those are things that I do. You need to find out what's good for you. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to do celery. What I like to do is when I pull the celery off, I like to get as many of those strings off the celery. So you bend this back and you pull the pieces like this, and you can get some of the strings off. Again, do the same thing here, and you get those strings off. Then you want to cut, and you can do two at a time or one at a time. Then what you want to do is you want to cut the ends off here and the ends off there to make it nice and easy. And you can either cut your celery in pieces like this, or you can cut it in angles like this. This gives you little bigger pieces and a little more surface area for cooking too. The other thing you can do with celery is if you want a finer dice, you can go right down the center here and slice this like that, and then you have two pieces, and then you can finely dice. Okay, the cooking police will say that you always need your knuckles against the knife. This is the way I do it. Again, you find the way that you do it, and make sure you're always safe when doing it. But that's how I dice celery. The next is onion. If you see, I've got a root here and I've got the end here. You want to slice your onion in half like that. And then you want to take, not the root, you want to hold the root together. You cut this piece off, set it aside, and of course you peel the onion. And again, holding on to the root. Now to dice, what I do is I take, and here is the root on this end right here. I take and I make slices like this along the onion. And then you can slice this way. You'll see chefs do that. I don't see the need. And then depending upon the thickness, again, you use your fingers to guide the thickness of your dice. Okay, and if you want thinner pieces or smaller dice, what you do is in between each one of those cuts, you make another cut, so your pieces are smaller this way, and then you cut real close like this. And this is, again, it's an onion, so I'm cutting, and I'm either going forward or I'm cutting back like that. And then when you get to the end of the onion, instead of just throwing it away, again, cut some slices in here like this. And then you want to take and just cut the pieces off like this. And this makes sure you get the most of the onion. And lastly, that piece. And that's how you can dice an onion. Next is a carrot. For carrot, you want to take and first, you want to clean your carrot, or you want to scrape all the stuff off. And then we're going to do carrots a couple of ways. I'm going to show you how to cut it just normal slices, and you cut those on an angle. And for this, I like to use this type of knife. And so it's just simple cutting like that. Now, if I want finer pieces, I'll cut the carrot into a piece like this. I'll cut it in half. Cut that in half. And then what I'll do is I'll cut smaller pieces. That's a smaller dice for the carrots. Okay, now if I want to julienne it, and if you want your julienne to be all the same size, this is what you do. And that's more or less if you're doing something for plating. You cut that, be careful with the first one because you need a flat edge. Then you want to cut another flat edge, roll it over, cut another flat edge, roll it over, and cut another one. So you get it as square as possible. Then from here, you're going to cut yourself little strips like this. And then you're going to cut these strips into your julienne strips. You can cut them as wide or as thin as you want. And that's up to you. And be very careful when you're julienne that you don't get your fingertips out there. And there you have julienne strips. Next are button mushrooms. There are a few ways you can do this. First, some people don't like the stems, so all you have to do after you clean your mushrooms is you take the stem out, and if you want just slices of mushroom, once again, all you do is notice how the tip of the knife stays on the board, and I'm just going in a circular motion. That's the way you do that. And if you want these, you can cut these also into small circles, and those are good too. They're a little more woody. If you don't care whether or not the stem is here, you can slice your mushroom like this and include that stem in there, and you get mushrooms that look like this. Or if you want to dice mushrooms, cut this off and leave the stem like that, and then you can cut the mushroom in half, or you can cut it in thirds or fourths, and then you can simply then cut your mushrooms into pieces. Those are the basic ways that I usually cut mushrooms. The other thing, last one, is if you really want a hearty piece of mushroom in there, just simply keep the stem in, cut it in half, and you got really nice chunks of mushrooms for a nice sauce or something like that. The last thing I'm going to show you is how to slice and dice garlic. If you just want slices, all you do is you just simply start here and you just slice them to the thickness or the thinness that you want. And that gives you some nice slices of garlic. If you want to dice it finely, what I do is I'll take the garlic clove, I'll be careful to cut right down the width of it, and then I'll cut little slivers like this in them. And then I'll cut fine little pieces. And one last way to dice an onion fine is to simply put the knife over it, smash it real good. You see it's like that. And then you run your knife through that this way, run your knife through it this way. And you see you have very quickly and easily diced garlic. So that's it. That's how I dice and cut up some of my basic vegetables. I'll be following through with cabbage and cauliflower and a few other things in future videos. But note what I did here, and this is what I do every time I cook, okay? I'll look at all my ingredients and I'll dice up all of my vegetables and I'll pull together all the measurements of all my spices and I'll lay them all out. So while I'm cooking, I'm not trying to do double duty of trying to cook and cut at the same time, because that just creates chaos. Okay, so it's easier to individually put these things in so that all you have to do is get the vegetable, get what you need at the time that you need it, and it makes for much easier cooking. I hope this helps you. And again, I want to caution, this is the way I do it. You find the way that you handle the knife the best, and you make sure you keep your fingertips clear at all times, and make sure the knife is very sharp. If it's not sharp, that's when it can slip the easiest. So anyways, just the way I do it, you find the best way for you. I hope you find this helpful. Again, thank you for coming and watching another episode of Papa Bojo's Kitchen. I hope to see you again. Buon appetito and goodbye, everybody.